Hello everyone, welcome to Adventures in Who, your local Gibby Gabby Doctor Who podcast with two buddies to shoot in the shit where Doctor Who's concerned. I'm Martin.
I'm Tash.
And today we've got a review discussion of 73 Yards, which I think is the title. That's right? I keep thinking it's 76. It's 73.
No, it's very specifically 73.
It's 73. We've
73, yep.
Got a quick little bish bash bosh, some news for you as well in the worlds of Doctor Who, although I'm more than sure if you're a nerd about Doctor Who and you've somehow stumbled upon this podcast, you probably already know this stuff, but it's my duty, goddammit. It's my duty to report these things, so we'll quickly just bash through that. First things first, Season 2, or Series 15, is done. They have wrapped production on the next series, so see you in 2025 for that, I guess. But before then, we didn't mention this on the other episode, is that we've got officially now a Stephen Moffat scripted Christmas special in between, which I think is called Joy to the World, which was another completely unsubtly landed title in his interview with the Radio Times, I think it was, where he completely gave away the titles of his episodes while saying, no, I'm not writing for the show.
It's fine. It's fine.
I'm sure it's going to be a silly, goofy Christmas time, but I'll take it. I'll take it. If the Mothman's doing it, I'll take it. But continuing on with season 2 being done, the spin-off that they're working on, a 6-episode spin-off, I believe, which may or may not have got a shout out in this episode if you have been paying attention, just completely unsubtly. But thanks, Russell. Thank you. I think the war between the land and the sea is the rumoured title. Oh, I just smacked something over there. Excuse me. Something to do with sea devils is the other rumour. What that has to do with 73 yards and why you'd shout it out in this episode, other than them being by water, I don't know. But I guess might actually start getting official news about that spin-off as they start production on that. And the last bit of news is that the finale, the 2-episode finale for this season, The Legend of Ruby Sunday and the Empire of Death, I believe are the titles, will be in cinemas in the UK. I don't know about anywhere else. Maybe someone might pick it up elsewhere, but in the UK at least, if you want to stay up till midnight, you can. I believe it will start at 11 p.m. because obviously the first episode would have aired the previous week, and then it will go straight into the finale. If that's your jam, if this season has hooked you to that point that you decide you want to go to the cinema, you've got that option, folks. You can go. You can go do that.
This is the one time I hear you not excited about the cinema.
Look, it might come back. It might come back. We'll also actually we'll talk a little bit, since we are halfway through the season. Once we've reviewed and talked about 73 yards, we'll give our kind of halfway through consensus of how we're vibing with this season. And I mean, look, there's still time. They've got another half of the season to go, but just going strictly off of what we've been given thus far and where we're at with the whole thing. We're going to jump into 73 yards. As you can tell, we're both full of beans today as we talk about this head-spinning episode, I think it's fair to say. But synopsis of the episode, 73 yards. Doctor and Ruby arrive on the Welsh coastside just for a little stroll, seemingly, not really there for any particular reason. But before they know it, would you believe it? The Doctor goes and puts his foot in it once again, twice in a row. He's not doing well. Tripped up on a bit of string that is in the episode described as a fairy circle, which also has some scrolls in there, which Ruby then reads. Something about a Mad Jack character, I miss you, and then the camera pans and the Doctor is vanished. He gone, out of existence, and all there is Ruby, a seemingly dead TARDIS, and a mysterious figure who continues to stalk Ruby around at exactly 73 yards, who then proceeds to scare people away from her, and angry at her and this kind of thing. And then as the story goes, we have a bit of a gothic folklory horror, but then transitions into political thriller horror. if that's a thing, satire, I guess, in a way, and then comes back to being a spooky thing, and then it resolves in a way which I'm sure we will discuss momentarily.
Yeah.
Good folks, that's 73 yards in a nutshell. I don't know who wants to go first on this. All I can say out of the gate is that I have very mixed feelings about this episode, good and bad.
Fair.
I'm kind of all over the place with it. I've seen it's another big gloopy, slodgy Marmite episode, it seems, because I've seen people absolutely be in love with this thing. I've seen other people be like, this episode annoyed me so much, I want to go and tear my hair out. I've seen both reactions in equal measure, seemingly, which is an interesting thing for this, because that seems to be the case for a lot of this season thus far. But yeah, I really struggled to form an opinion about this episode, all in all. How about you? Where, I mean, I kind of know where your opinion is lying with this one. Tash may or may not have had a slight explosion in a chat, which I opted, you know what, I'm going to wait until we record it.
Yeah, you did. Tash had some gin and tonics. Could not be bridled. It's tough because we always come on here and we're like, we don't want to be negative, you know what I mean? So
of course not.
we always try to see, like, kind of go back and revisit things. And I will say, like, I didn't hate revisiting this episode as much as, like, I don't think I could ever revisit Space Babies, if I'm going to be honest.
No,
so
I never want to see that
already again. A little bit on the up and up, you know? Gonna focus on the positives here first, but I wanted to like it, and it wasn't even the fact that the doctor's not really in it or anything like that, right? Like, it's nice seeing a companion heavy episode from time to time, because in reality the companions still have lives separate to the doctor. You're not going to be with the doctor forever.
Yes.
There's still, like, a whole other world going on. Can be humbling to, like, realize that as well. Kind of see in the like companion's eyes of, like, what happens when the doctor isn't there.
Yeah.
So, like, the overall theme of it, I enjoyed. Like, it was, I saw what they were trying to do. For me, it was just like the gajillion unanswered questions again, where I'm like, no, like,
yes.
I just answer some questions to make it feel somewhat whole in the end. Like, obviously there's things that you might not even have an answer for, but I feel like the default so far has been, oh, well, we're focusing on this, like, mystical fantasy stuff now, and magic doesn't need to be explained. And I'm like, that is a cop-out.
Yes.
That is a cop-out. Like,
I'm
you
right
can't
there with
just
you.
keep honing on, like, well, it's magic, so it doesn't matter. No, it does.
No, you're right. You need, even when you're dealing with fantasy or magic, you need something in there where it feels like it matters. And if you're completely removing the rules, it's as if nothing matters anymore. And then you're not as invested in what's going on, because it's like, what are the stakes here? What are the rules here? What can be broken? What can't be broken? Is it important if this rule brokens? If there are no rules, then there's nothing to grab onto and be like, oh, I understand this. One of the things I definitely did like about this was really getting to see Ruby in a lens that we don't, well, we've kind of seen, but not really. It was nice to really get to know her character a bit more. And like you say, removing her from the doctor, you get to see more what her strengths are as an individual, opposed to how she works in the team dynamic. And it also leads into, it's one of those things. Why does the doctor choose the people he chooses to come with him? Now, with Ruby, there may be some unanswered questions, because we were speculating in Church of Ruby Road. We don't know how long the doctor's actually been investigating Ruby, because he's just kind of there looking over her for some reason. We don't really know why. Ultimately, what I got from this episode, what I felt it was doing, is confronting Ruby with her fear of abandonment. Like that, it's forcing her to face that fear in some way, shape, or form. but also showing even when that is going on, she still has the resilience and strength to do the right thing in the case of where the political aspect of this, like the villain, if you like, the villain of the piece, where she's willing to, even though I'm facing this trauma of abandonment and it's being physicalized in this weird person who's out of focus, I'm still going to stand up, and this man's about to nuke the entire planet potentially, so maybe I should do something about that. And she does, to her credit. She does something about it. So I liked that part of what the story was doing.
I think Millie did an excellent job in this episode. Like, anything that I have issues with is not on Millie at all.
And this is, and you know, there's even more to Millie Gibson's credit. This was the first thing they shot. Like, before Ruby Road, before everything. This is the very first thing they shot. She turns up on set to Doctor Who to be the companion, and they go, "Well, this is all you. You're leading the set on this one." And she's 18. She's 18 years old on this shoot for this one. So full props to her, and her character is so. I will say, Ruby in this episode, this being the first thing they filmed, Ruby feels more formed and realized than Ncuti does as the Doctor in his opening scenes.
Yeah.
Like, she already feels like the character that we've been seeing in the previous few episodes. Now, granted, Ncuti's probably very distracted with the fact he's deep in filming a completely different show with a completely different vibe, which might be, you know, hard to do, to his credit.
I mean, going for playing a teenager to a time-traveling alien, right? Like
thousands of years old alien. And I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm being mean to him, but it did, in that opening scene, it felt like you're channeling your teenage performance a little bit here. I can kind of see that. It didn't, like, bother me that much, but I could sort of see, and I think he has said in interviews, it took him a little while to get a foothold on the Doctor, and it's kind of understandable given that he wasn't around for the first block of filming, effectively, that he didn't really get a chance in those early bits of production to really dig in, because he was distracted doing something else. I will also mention, since we may as well just sort of check the Doctor off our thoughts and feelings about the Doctor in this episode now. How did you feel about his outfit this week? Because to me, it felt like Ncuti Gatwa just turned up to set, and they were like, "Yeah, that'll do, mate. That'll do." I mean, don't get me wrong, it was a cool outfit. He looked good in it, but in terms of the Doctor, it's just like, yeah, that's just a guy. That's just a guy off the street, a fashionable guy off the street. It was nice and bright, I guess, and it had a kind of a Patrick Troughton beanie vibe going on, and a Sylvester McCoy duffel coat. But I don't know. It just felt a little too. I don't mind him changing outfits from week to week, but I just want something that's a little bit like more eccentric. He kind of looks a little bit out of place, like he shouldn't really be where he is, kind of vibe. And this just felt like, well, he's dressed very appropriately for the weather.
I feel like this is gonna be the bane of your existence.
Maybe.
I really do. I do, because like, I know it's classic that the Doctor has like a, you know, like a look, a silhouette that you can recognize. So, but for me, I think it's honestly just like, if you now have like some more money to do other things, it's nice to get a chance to kind of explore different costumes and whatnot. And I think Ncuti has a like very like charismatic build in terms of the things that I think he can pull off and whatnot. So I can see why they're doing it. I didn't really think too much of the outfit, mainly because we just didn't really see him. Like, there's some things that you know are going to be like steeples, like the 2 chains and stuff like that, which you don't always see in kind of like the rings. You know, it's like, which is so very like trying to reach out to the Zoomers and the younger generation.
Is that what Zoomers do? Do they have rings and chains? Is that the end thing?
We're all that, like, I don't know. Just, I feel like everyone, like, that sounds so weird in my head. But just like ways of being like still expressing yourself in minimalistic ways, but not really, because it's a bunch of rings and stuff. Or maybe that's just like the witchy person in me who always has like a jillion freaking like rings with different gems on it for different days. But yeah, I didn't really think too much of the outfit, mainly because he just wasn't in it, and I'm
Yeah.
also just really still so lost on the timeline, right? Like, I don't know if, like,
How long they've been together or how long he's been
yeah,
in.
seemingly why this was even what was picked in the first place. Like,
Mm,
could they have been coming off of something else where they're trying to play it low key? Could there have been
mm,
a conversation pre-hand of like,
yeah.
we just want to seem normal and just go on like a quick
True.
little break? But and of course, like in other times, even when they did go on breaks, like even with Matt Smith, like when they would go try to just go on a relaxing vacation, you know, like it never turns out that way. They're
Mm,
never like Matt Smith isn't changing his outfit, but it's just I guess new times and everything. I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying to spin it in a positive way. I
yeah.
could see how like it just seemed like much more toned back this episode. I didn't even really give too much thought of it to it, honestly.
Maybe it's a showing of how long I've been a fan of this show and how it forms my opinions.
I had no idea you were a fan of the show.
Yeah, no, none at all.
It's really
But
young.
I
Yeah.
just feel like I do think like each Doctor's costume
Mhm.
is an extension of the personality that actor puts on the character.
Mhm.
And because Ncuti changes his costume every week, it makes
Mhm.
it a little more difficult to grab on to what he's going for, per se. That may sound really stupid, and most people will be like, look, you're a human being with a multifaceted personality, and you wear different clothes every day, okay? But I do still feel like the clothes that I wear are an extension of the things I like, or, you know,
Yeah, for sure.
or whatever. And like I said, I don't mind him changing his outfit every week. That's perfectly fine. Others have done it. John Pertwee's outfit is different every single episode. It's got a similar, like I say, silhouette to it, but it is different colors, different materials, etc., etc., etc. And they're just going with that to the like nth degree with Ncuti. But I don't know. There was just something about this look that felt very like I'm just normal 30-year-old man look. Which I guess if that's what you want to do, then by all means. But I don't know. It wasn't to my taste in terms of the Doctor specifically. Ncuti looks great. A magnificent looking human being is Ncuti, and he pulls off all of the outfits. But in terms of the character, I'm like, come on, just give me a little something, just a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean that could also have been like a product of like the costume team not really knowing how they wanted to dress Ncuti
That's
yet. They
true.
could have been messing about with like, hey, we want to kind of swap out all of these different ideas later on. So like, what is the base? You know what I mean? Like if this is your first time really filming, like what is the base?
No.
But
yeah, you're very
I'm sure
right.
we'll never know. I'm sure we'll never get answers. Maybe in like 50 years when there's a documentary and they'll be like asking people when they're 80 years old if they remember why they made that decision.
Yeah, no, you're probably right, because like I've already said, it was early days filming for them, so they were like, this will do, you're only in it for a little bit, it's fine. But anyway, welcome to the Doctor Who fashion show, everyone. Moving on.
We're gonna have it every week.
Yeah, probably.
And we should probably just rate.
I mean,
we should start like a rate the Doctor's
Rate the
outfit and
Doctor's
just see
outfit.
you spiral.
So how was it this week? I mean, if they're gonna do it, we may as well get content out of it. We'll do a tier list for Ncuti's outfits. I swear to God.
Oh my God, we should totally. We gotta focus on the joys, you know.
Okay, back to the episode proper.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I guess we'll go for it like kind of chronologically. The first, whatever it was, 20 minutes or so, I was super in. I was super in to those first 20 minutes. And
it's beautiful shot, like beautifully done and beautifully shot.
Yeah, I think the direction across the board for this episode was really good. Like there was some really good match cuts where like Ruby would be like looking at the TARDIS on the chair, stroking her face, and then it would just smash cut to her back in the pub looking out the window, doing the same expression. And there's another really good one when she's hitting the door to her flat, and then it smash cuts to her sitting on the floor. There's a lot of good moments like that. I feel like the director probably watched Last Night in Soho and Edgar Wright stuff, and probably I feel like Russell T Davies must have watched It Follows at some point and was like, maybe there's something in this. This is kind of creepy, just an ever-present thing that just keeps following you no matter what, but I'm just going to have it being static. I feel like that might have been a slight influence. Also, his own work, because there's some similarities between this and Turn Left, an alternate timeline where the companion has to stand up on their own 2 feet and does the whole thing, and then it reverts back to the beginning again and changes events slightly. Similar in its own way.
Yes, yeah.
Those first 20 minutes, great. Like I say, really well shot. Spooky vibes, loved it. Millie's great. The most trolly of troll bar pubs ever.
Yep.
Just walked in, and they're just like, I just like to imagine they were all looking out the window, looking at her coming over the hill, and like, all right, everyone, let's fuck with her when she gets in. It's just messed with her. Like, the whole, can I pay with my phone? And like, of course you can pay with your phone. It's so mean.
I feel like that's a valid question though, because you never know, like service and stuff places, like, you know, like some of like the whole, like there's even places here where you can't really pay with your phone type of situation. So I feel like that's still a valid question to ask.
I thought
no matter what.
Thing. But apparently we're Welshist, I guess, for thinking that they wouldn't have that. It was a good vibe that first 20 minutes.
Yeah, I did enjoy it.
And I was very invested in what this mysterious figure is, and why they're 73 feet away, or yards away, sorry, and why they're making certain hand gestures, and why, you know, Susan Twist. We get Susan Twist early on in the episode, and Ruby actively acknowledges having seen her before, which was interesting, and it also brings up the question of, since this seems to be an alternate timeline or potential, it might have just been happening in Ruby's head in some way, and we don't really know.
Nope.
There are no answers to that question.
Yeah.
Make of that what you will, but it's interesting that Susan Twist is there, however you slice it, and whatever role she might be playing.
And if this is the first one too, like saying, like I've seen you before type of thing, like this.
Yeah, it's already seeded right there.
Yeah, does this start like Susan Twist popping up everywhere? Is whatever the talking to other quote unquote Ruby messed with her in some capacity?
I guess we have to wait and see. Because I will add the caveat whilst we're deep into this already, but obviously there may be things in this episode that come back round in the finale in some way, shape, or form. But as always, we can only judge what has been put in front of us this week. And maybe if things do loop back round, we'll mention it when we get to those future episodes and stuff. And if it improves anything that we kind of were like, does this make sense? Is this going anywhere? On that same note, we got Mrs. Flood as well this episode.
Yes.
For the first time since Christmas. And she just seemed to be, this doesn't involve me. I'm going down to my murder basement.
But like, why even ask the question? You know, like
just so matter of fact, just like you're standing in the middle of the road talking to your okay. One of them's a Time Lord. I'm putting like one of them, Mrs. Flood or Susan Twist. One of them is Time Lord or Time Lord adjacent. That's all I'm saying. Probably wrong, but
something's going on.
But yeah, I also, on that first 20 minutes, I also feel like those characters in that pub are kind of wasted. Because they're there, they're great, I'm in it, and then we just move on. Goodbye, so long. One of my big feelings about this whole story is that I feel like it was two ideas smushed together. And it definitely feels like an episode that was written and made around the necessity of not being able to have Ncuti there. Which is understandable given the circumstances. They set on that actor, that's who we want. We have to start filming here and now, so we've got to work around that problem. But it does feel like these were two different ideas for a story. I'm not saying this is what it was, it's just this is how it came across, how it felt to me. Russell T Davies had an idea for a spooky, folklory horror episode, and he had an idea for a political satire thriller kind of episode, and he was like, well, I'm just going to put them together with the thread of this 73-yard thing, which does just dilute the whole thing for me, because I feel like I would have been interested in both of these things if they were separate and their own thing, which were developed properly. Like, I just kind of wish this whole episode took place in a creepy Welsh village. That might just be me. But
No, I mean, I think like some of your favorite episodes hone in on that kind of folky horror aspect.
I just think thematically it would. I mean, obviously, they want the scenes where Ruby's mum abandons her, and to go along with all of that. But I just feel like the sense of isolation would have been more so if the whole thing was set in that village, and and maybe the town folk are slowly just getting drawn away and away from Ruby, and then you find a way to resolve it in a satisfying and way where you get some answers. But yeah, that was something I definitely had with this, where I felt like there's two interesting ideas, but I don't know if they're fully developed enough. But yeah, what did you think about the first 20 minutes the Welsh stuff? Let's just call it the Welsh stuff. I'm sure no one will be offended by that.
Welsh stuff. No, I mean, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed just like how they filmed it. Yeah, so like those patrons of that bar were such
assholes,
such trolls. Yeah, I would just, yeah, holy crap. Yeah, it just kind of felt weird because obviously we see like the example of the one fellow that goes out to talk to the woman and like runs away as well. Like, it seems like the bar owner is like willing to help Ruby, like has a spare set of clothes for Ruby for that first, whatever time period. And then they call the fellow whose name I cannot remember now, and he says like ask her. And then all of a sudden it seems like the owner of the bar and room like are like, no, you're getting out of here. Like, I felt like there was a switch there that didn't like ask her to warrant kind of that like get the F out right now type of vibe. So I felt like that was the only part of that first 20-ish minutes that felt weird to me.
That she was being aggressive towards Ruby, having not even interacted with the 73-yard creature thing.
Yeah, like it was just like a big switch,
I guess she really appreciates that patronage of that guy who says he's not coming back until she's gone, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. But I mean, I guess they had to have like a hard transition into like Ruby, like, okay, like need to go pick your life back up and go back home now type of thing, which like at the beginning of the episode, we have no idea what time period it is or anything like that. Yeah. I liked it. I think though, like it would be nice to kind of, even though the patrons were trolling her a little bit, get like a little bit more into the why of the fairy, or I'm gonna call it a fae circle, to kind of explain that lore a little bit more to people, because it's like this huge disrespectful thing that the doctor did and consequences must be paid, but you don't go to explain it beyond patrons just trolling Ruby, you know what I mean?
That's what I mean by it feeling underdeveloped. Like, it feels like that side of it should have had more time spent on it. Like, why is that circle up there in the first place, at least? Like, was there I mean, we get that it's some kind of shrine to this mad Jack person in some description, but we're not sure if it's like a respectful shrine or a trap or a, like, it's not really clear.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I just felt like the whole time I was just like bouncing around in my head. Like, I feel like I was being rubber banded through multiple timelines, even though seamlessly, like, this is an alternate timeline. It's not immense insanity, but I just was like, oh, we're here now, and we're here now, and now we're here, and this is fine, and this is good. Like, it just couldn't have a second to be like, what is even happening?
No, yeah, you're, like, as soon as you get out of the Welsh village, it does feel like it just keeps whipping by everything. Like, boom, 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 next, and doesn't really get a second to breathe once we're out of there. Well, we both like the opening, so far so good, right? So once Ruby gets to London, hooks back up with the fam, we get to see them again. Interesting that Russell's gone for this approach that most of the family of Ruby and the Doctor, like, all of that stuff has kind of happened off screen. So they kind of already know what the Doctor's about there, and all of that stuff. He's kind of decided to just, okay, I think people will get it. I don't need to, like, linger on that, which I kind of see as reasoning, but at the same time, I'm like, if this is intended to be a softish reboot,
Mhm.
whilst a continuation. Once again, it links back to what we were saying the other week about the emotional impact of certain
Mhm.
things, where you don't really get a sense of the Doctor's relationship with Ruby's family because we've not really seen it. So I don't know. I guess maybe we'll get a better sense of that as the season goes on. But for now, I don't really understand what the dynamics are in the family relationship and Ruby's relationship with the Doctor and her zooming off through time and space. And they seem on board with it. They seem perfectly okay with it, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's a discussion point for later on when things about Ruby probably get revealed and all of that good stuff. Next thing, Ruby's life. Just zoom in past her. We hook up with Kate and Unit. We get some Unit action, and I have to say I really liked Kate in this. I like. We were saying this when we were doing the specials. Kate, Lethbridge Stewart, Russell seems to really get her. Like she feels so much more on the ball comparatively to what we had in Flux previously, and a little bit honestly with sort of the Capaldi stuff where she showed up there. I don't know. She just seems a lot more like, oh, this. I now believe that this person is running Unit based on how he's writing it. So I liked her a lot here, and it was generally kind of chilling how all of these Unit soldiers are just instantly just disengage and scarper. like the most trained people who are to deal with these kinds of situations are like, nah, mate. we're leaving.
Like this is not it. Which I just thought was so funny because it's like even when Ruby sent her mom to go talk, and I get like you have to give this feeling of abandonment, but in my mind I'd be like, I've seen people just run away. Like I'm not gonna let my mom go up to this person. Like my first thing would not let that happen.
Right.
Instinct wise. But yeah, it was just funny how like Kate's like, we have all of these things of protection and even saltiness for witchcraft, which is kind of like sprinkling in more of like the there's gonna be unexplained and we need to deal with it type of hint. But and then all seemingly like within seconds of like it's just kind of an example of people who think they know what to do.
Yeah.
And don't listen to Ruby being like, no, don't, like, listen, I don't know if this is gonna work. I really like Kate seems really into her element and running Unit, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for real. Yeah. I've been enjoying her a lot. So I look forward to seeing her assumably in the finale or whatever point they come into the story. But yeah, I like you say, the fact that they've got these supernatural protections now. It very much reminded me of Battlefield, which is a Sylvester McCoy story where the Brigadier is like just reeling off all these new gadgets and gizmos that Unit have now invested in because they've been dealing with Cybermen and Daleks and stuff, so they've got all this new equipment, and then the Doctor just offhandedly goes, you got any silver bullets? He's like, why would we need silver bullets? You never know. You There was also a neat little reference to Battlefield, well, at least I think it was a reference to Battlefield, when Ruby's charged £5 for a Coke, and she's like, £5? And in Battlefield, which is a story that's meant to take place in the future to when they're filming it, they ask for like a lemonade or something, and it's like £5, and Ace is like, what do you mean £5? Are you kidding? Are you kidding me? But also kind of interesting, that kind of links to earlier in the season with the Devil's Cord with Susan Twist and them getting upset about the price of a cup of tea. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but there was a link. I saw it. The price of drinks is getting extortionate, everyone, and the Doctor is not happy about it. I'm gonna talk about our 73-yard creature in a bit. I'm gonna kind of leave, because that's where all of my questions and potential problems with the episode come in. So I'm just gonna keep rattling through the Ruby and stuff.
Yeah.
So we see Ruby's life starts just basically flashing before our eyes. And through a nice little montage, we get a sense of people continuing to abandon her because she gets less and less birthday cards. And, I mean, I'm sorry, but Millie Gibson does not pass for 40 years old. I'm sorry to break this illusion, but...
Which is hilarious because, like, one of the critiques that we had heard was like, oh, you just throw some glasses on and makes them older, like that's gonna magically age Ruby. But I know that I think Millie actually went to a walking coach to see how to walk as a 40-year-old. Because like it's such a drastic jump from 18 to 40,
She was basically told, hunch and put your arms together a bit more. That's how 40-year-olds walk, everyone. Your neck goes down and your arms come in and you waddle
Pressure
around.
Capitalism, just makes your back.
It really does. It really does. So that was slightly distracting that she's meant to be 40 years old, and I'm like, that doesn't even look my age, let alone 40. But then we get introduced to the Roger app. Gwilliam, I'm not exactly sure how you're meant to pronounce his last name, insinuated that this Roger is the embodiment of Mad Jack. And again, it's not made abundantly clear whether that is true or not. It's just Ruby sees a link between how this all started and this individual, and the Doctor mentioning that there was a prime minister in the future who leads the world to nuclear devastation or war of some description. And
Scareman.
That flicks a switch in Ruby's head to be like, I'm going to save the world. This is what I'm here to do. Maybe this will resolve the whole thing, because it's the only thing I've got. It's the only thing that links this circle to what's going on. If I stop him, maybe everything will go back to normal, which, fair, I guess, at that point, when you're desperate enough, you're like, I see something that might be worth doing. I feel like there's a solid Doctor Who villain in Roger. If he was more, like, what's the right way of phrasing this? That if he was, because he's only in maybe 3 or 4 scenes, I want to say, and some of them are very brief, and I feel like there's a very strong, like, I like it when Doctor Who can come up with a good, solid human villain who feels like they can hold their own against the companion or the Doctor or whatever. I genuinely enjoy that. I don't know, there's something about when you do that, it feels like the Doctor's having to face like the worst of the thing he loves a little bit, and how he handles that, and how the companion would handle that, and also it's just, I don't know, just something about it I find compelling, and I feel like Roger had that in him. It's just not developed enough. Like, we just kind of get bad guy wants to nuke things and probably an abuser, and it's kind
But I feel like it also didn't really like explain in context why the people would want that prime minister either. Like it's just like seemingly people really wanted that, and with no explanation about why people wanted that, and just like I guess maybe it's a play on Brexit, fucking UK doing UK things. But
it's not embarrassing being here at all right now.
Oh, stop. It's much better than here. But he had the capacity to both be charming while also being really evil, which you could play on that a lot. Like, and I think it was really cool that how they kind of like, actually went to the BBC to shoot that interview and stuff like that. And the actor was kind of talking about how weird it was to see himself on a gajillion screens while also filming and needing to push past that. But it just didn't explain like the context of how or why.
Yes.
Really, that was who people wanted to have, and holding him up on a pedestal, even though he's literally saying like,
no, it's
I love you.
it's weird because, like, on one hand I'm like, who would vote for this guy who is so clearly psychotic, and yet then you look at recent history and you're like, I see exactly. Oh, it's very clear what's happening and what he's going for. There's some very make Britain great again vibes.
100%
coming across. But like you say, there's not any context to the world that's going on around them to understand why. Like he doesn't literally say it, but he pretty much says, has anyone ever fired a nuke? I'd be ready to do that. He basically says he would do it, and yet people are like, I'm with Roger.
Yeah.
Like, what's the context? Why would people be okay with that? Like, just a little bit, just something. Say that, I mean, they mentioned that there was a war with Russia at one point, but that has since ended.
Yeah.
So what's the current thing that would make people go, that's my guy? I think you're completely right about that. Yeah, so there's something there, but again, it's kind of half-baked, and it's a shame, because I think I mean, again, who knows? He may come back at some point in some capacity, and we don't know if this timeline is a timeline that actually ever happens or doesn't happen, and it's kind of a paradox, and we'll get there. We'll get to all that. So yeah, and then eventually Ruby decides, I'm going to use my creepy old lady who's following me around to do whatever it is she does to people to freak him out and to stop him, although it's not exactly clear why, because it seemed like the whole point of what the old lady is doing is specific to Ruby and making people not want to be around her. So why it would then make Roger go, well, I'm not going to be Prime Minister anymore. I don't know how that makes any sense, but okay. I'll go with it, I guess. That's fine, because the climax needs it to happen, I guess. That's okay. And then from there, you think, oh, Ruby's like, it's done. Maybe I'll be free now. Nope. 40 years later, and I have to say, well done for casting an old woman to be old Ruby rather than putting Millie in old person makeup. Because I never, ever really buy it when you get your young actor to be them in old person makeup. There's an uncanniness to it. So good choice by whoever it was to be. Let's just cast an older lady to be old Ruby, because it works a lot better.
Yeah, definitely. And she did a great job too.
She did. I completely believe that was Ruby as an old woman. Like, she did a really good job. And then we just kind of have Ruby sitting in it. Like, I don't know what else I could have done until she's at the point of death, seemingly. And then she merges with the creature, and I guess we'll both talk about what we think this was the whole time in a moment. Travels back in time as old woman to then telepathically give herself a warning, to give the doctor the warning to not step on the bit of string, and subsequently creates a paradox where if she didn't do this in the first place, she wouldn't be there to give herself the warning, to give the doctor the warning to not stand on the thing. And then my biggest issue with the whole episode is that even though they insinuate that Ruby has a vague recollection memory of being here before, seemingly she doesn't actually learn anything from what's just transpired. Like, she doesn't retain enough of the knowledge of what's happened to be like, at least Ruby has developed in some way at the end of all of this. Unless it comes back up again, like we say, unless it comes back up in some way. But for now, it just seems like everything that just happened didn't actually matter or have any consequences, and our character didn't really learn or develop from it. Which
like, you she say, like, don't step, to kind of warn. But then you see Ruby still, like, go to reach something, and the doctor be like, no, don't touch it. You know, like, you would think that, like, that seriousness would, like, there should be, like, some sort of gut feeling then of, like, oh, this is strange, like, maybe I shouldn't reach to touch it.
No, I have all kinds of questions and problems with how this whole thing starts and how it ends and what it's supposed to all mean. But like I say, there was stuff here I liked. And why I'm so divided, and I don't really know how to talk about this episode because of it. Because there was stuff I really liked. And it's really frustrating that there's just these these threads that I feel like if I yank on them, the whole thing just collapses on itself. I completely understand, like, I've seen other people talk about, and I get it, like, this whole episode is a thematic, ambiguous thing. Like, it's about Ruby's fear of abandonment and it being personified in this whole thing. Fine, completely get it. But there's so much stuff in here that just feels ambiguous for the sake of being ambiguous, and I'm not convinced Russell has the answers to those questions.
Mhm.
Like, I feel like there's a lot of stuff he's just doing because A, it's either creepy, or B, because it will make you ask questions.
Mhm.
And he doesn't necessarily have the answers to those questions. He's just doing it because he knows it will make you have questions.
Yeah, provoke thoughts.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
for me, when that's fine, I like ambiguous stuff. I've been called a film snob for many times for liking movies that don't have answers to all of the questions it puts up. But I feel like the writer should have the answers to those questions. Like they should know
Yeah.
what they're doing, even if they're not making it abundantly clear. But at least then you kind of are seeding in the things where you can put point to point, and it's a satisfying thing. Like, you can
Mhm.
feel like there are answers here, but also you can get what you want to take from it.
Yep.
And there's so many things in this episode where I feel like I say, it's just Russell doing things for the sake of doing it. And that came across even more watching the behind the scenes stuff, where
Oh yeah.
like the hand movements don't mean anything. It's just
Mhm.
a thing they came up with to look like she was doing something.
Mhm.
I'm not convinced Russell knows what she says to people to make them run away. It's just
Nope.
imagine the worst possible thing she could say to those people that would make them run
Yep.
away. And I mean, that doesn't annoy me super much. I
Mhm.
wish I had some kind of an idea, but like I get it's more about the impact rather than what it actually is, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. But I can also see why it'd be incredibly frustrating for someone on the other end, where I just need something. I need some kind of hint as to what
Mhm.
is being said in those 3 seconds that then causes everyone to run away in hysterics.
Yeah, yeah, and I'll seemingly like also kick Ruby out of
mhm,
her home. You know what I
mhm.
mean? Like,
Like, it's big things.
yeah.
Like, these people like hate her guts, seemingly.
Mhm.
Like, going to the point where her mum is like, your real mum didn't even want you. Like,
Yeah, which is really harsh, right?
it's like,
Like,
I need to have some idea of what is
yeah.
happening for that to have come across, or to feel like that's earned.
Or to
Um,
have like all of unit essentially be like,
mhm.
actually, no. Like, I don't, yeah, I didn't buy it.
No.
I didn't buy it at all.
Yeah. And that's the main thing. Like, you have to buy, if you're going to be ambiguous, you have to do something that makes people, like I say, buy into what's happening.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you're
Yeah.
just sat there going, why?
Mhm.
Why? Not the
Mhm.
interesting kind of, why? But more so,
Yeah, yeah,
why?
yeah, yeah. Just, yeah, like I said, it really felt half baked. And they're like, you could have gone with different elements that you could have like breathe a little bit more, develop a little bit more that maybe would have like made the other unanswered things not seem as important. But I feel like it was just a bunch of things on top of each other that kept like kept
Yeah.
adding on and adding on, that at the end of it I was just like, I just don't know
Yeah.
if it sold it for me.
I'm going to say the only way this makes sense to me is
Mhm.
if everything we're seeing is happening in some kind of weird supernatural magical timeline, right?
Mhm.
It's effectively Ruby is cursed, for lack of a better word,
Mhm.
to live out a full life of her worst fear of being abandoned.
Mhm.
And that's what this whole thing is. And then once that life is lived out, she is reset, put back, and then warns herself, or the magic of whatever this is warns her, hey, we did it to you, just don't stand on that fucking circle. Even though
Yeah, yeah.
it feels weird that she's the one who gets punished, even though the doctor's the one who stands on the string.
But like also though, where does the doctor just go? Like that
Yes.
part too, I was just like, I'm okay,
Yeah.
just gone. Like if the doctor can poof evaporate, then like why not the TARDIS poof evaporate?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why I don't. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The only way,
So many questions.
like I said, the only way I can explain it to myself, but even then it only makes sense, is if Ruby was the one who broke the circle.
Mm-hmm.
Is the thing. Like, that's kind of the big thing. And then also the Roger Mad Jack thing, is Roger just would have happened no matter what. because
Yeah.
the doctor mentions Roger before the circle's broken, before the scrolls are read. So that is a thing that the doctor knows happens in the future. Is that actually Mad Jack, or is it just like a connection that Ruby's just making because it's the closest thing she's got? Like ambiguous for the sake of being ambiguous. We don't really know, but have at it, viewer. Figure it out.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I feel like Russell said that, like, the doctor is always so respectful. At the time that he's not respectful and steps in on this circle, then makes the consequences even more drastic because it's Ruby that has to pay for it. And I'm like, I still don't buy, I guess watching the behind the scenes stuff, I still just didn't buy any of the reasons that Russell T Davies was getting. Like, I was like, you can sit here and say that now for sure, you know, but like for me, it doesn't seem like you even believe that. And like, it just doesn't seem like he even believes what he's saying.
Yeah, that's why I say I don't believe he has the answers to his own questions. I don't believe him.
I could see people potentially being like, well, like it's a Doctor Who episode and the Doctor's not really even in it. But for me, like that's not even the part. Like,
no.
I think it worked with the Doctor not being in it. I just feel like it was just like a jillion questions, whereas, you know, like, so it's okay to leave a form of mystery around things. Like, it's very clear that that's where Russell's is going to be going with this entire thing, which we'll have to deal with. And it's fine. It's like,
yeah, I'm not appreciating his approach to the fantasy elements really thus far.
Like, I think it's, I say this with a lot of shows, with a lot of different things, like, write something to be impactful. Don't just write it in for the sake of writing it in. So if you want to do fantasy, like, make it meaningful. Don't just make it be a scapegoat for unanswered questions. Because no matter what, there's always things we're never going to understand about life. Even scientists don't understand things about life. And when they do try to theorize around it, it's like a whole fucking debate, right? Like, debates are not unheard of. It keeps us all talking, but just do it in the right manner to like provoke those conversations, because when you do it in like this weird wish-washy elusive way, the people that don't really think about those ideas probably aren't taking a moment to like, it's not piquing their interest. That's not really what I'm trying to say, but like people who don't really think about that stuff and then you mention it vaguely, that's not going to make them think about it anymore. They're just going to be like, oh, okay, like I understand even less of it now, so I'm just gonna let it go. Versus like, I don't know.
No, it just links back to what we were saying earlier about it being very like, there has to be rules to this, and you can't just be say because magic happens. That's why.
Like, it's gonna make it less impactful too if you want to include this fantasy element. Like, it's kind of like if everything's a disaster, nothing's a disaster. Like, if everything is magic, nothing's magic, and then you lose this new element that you want to bring into the show.
There's absolutely a way you can bring supernatural stuff into Doctor Who. There is a way that can be done and it can work. I just don't think using supernatural elements as basically a scapegoat to not explain things is the way to do it.
No, and I mean, they're like, it's okay once or twice, or like, you know what I mean? It's okay to sprinkle it for sure. But if you're gonna only rely on that, it's gonna get redundant, I think.
That is my concern, because I feel like they were building towards some kind of climax in the finale that's going to really potentially unpack Pandora's box on all of this. And I don't know what that means for the next season. And I get that they're building and they're keeping stuff purposely vague for the sense of the mystery building into wherever they're going with all of this. But as a viewing experience of this episode in particular, as of just having this episode to go off of, it doesn't feel like the ending in particular doesn't feel emotionally satisfying. Because, like I say, Ruby doesn't learn anything from the experience because it's hand-waved and everything goes back to normal and nothing mattered. Nothing mattered in the end. And I get it. It's like it's like a vibe episode. I understand. It's a whole just a vibe, which is, I get it. I really understand why people like this episode. I completely get it, and I don't.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't want to come across as, unlike Space Babies, where I'm just like, I do not understand why people like this. I cannot fathom it. And you do you, boo, but you're not going to be able to explain it to me why that episode is good. With this episode, I can go, I see it. Yep. I see what you're getting from this. I understand that there's an enjoyment to be had from it. I just feel the way my brain is wired, even though I do enjoy ambiguous stuff when it's done in a way that I can get on with. Like, my best example of it is, sorry, it's sort of off on a tangent, but in the original Blade Runner, there's a question about whether Harrison Ford character is a robot or not. And it's left very ambiguous. It's up to you to decide whether you think he is a replicant or if he is not. Now, Ridley Scott directs the movie, and the way he approaches the movie is that he is a replicant. That is, and he has that idea in his head. Harrison Ford firmly believes that Deckard is human. So at least the creatives in the process have a very clear idea of what they're shooting for. They know what they're doing. And with this, I don't feel like they do. I don't feel like Russell has that baseline answer in his head as he's writing it, which is my biggest problem. I think I might be wrong about that. I fully will put my heart. If he has all the answers, I apologize in advance. But as of just watching the episode, it doesn't feel like he does, and he's just doing it because it's creepy. Or because it's vibey, and et cetera, et cetera.
I know they're trying to, so I'm trying to word this in a specific way, but I know we're trying to see this as, the new, this is a fresh start, quote unquote. So we don't hook on a new generation. We're still kind of honoring the older generation. But really, though, Chibnall's writing wasn't that long ago.
Nope.
And I know, not as much for me, but I know for a lot of people, Chibnall just kept people, being like, oh, just wait, just blind faith that there's going to be something at the end, and when there wasn't necessarily that for people, kind of just was kept being okay, we're going to do, we're going to have blind faith in you and your confidence in the show and your confidence in where the writing is going. And I feel like with Russ, coming from that to this season, you still even though there's been a period of time and they're going to say that this is kind of the rebranding of it, we're still coming fresh off of that, right? That wasn't 10 years ago, that was still recent writing, and some fans probably are still okay always giving blind faith and always will be that's just the magic of Doctor Who to them. But I feel like there's a big group of people that are we just don't want to give you blind faith anymore. You have to understand where we're coming from. We want you to earn our faith in the show again. And that's not even coming from my perspective, because for me, I was still able to sit through Chibnall's writing and stuff. I just know that that's something that I have heard. If you want a fandom to be confident with where you're going, I think you a little bit yourself have to be confident with where you're going and being able to express that. People are still very unsure since Jodie's seasons, and you just gotta give us a little something.
It's interesting because, like you say, at the moment we've got, they're hoping they have a whole new audience watching, which I guess, they're a lot more malleable in what they're expecting from the show. If they're enjoying or not, we won't really know whether they've gathered that new audience or not until Disney says something, basically, because that's the target audience for a lot of this at the minute. And we won't know if it's been a success or not until Disney say, okay, yeah, we'll keep going, or now we're good, thanks. We tried. We won't know, honestly, until that day comes. And then you've got people like us, and listen, old Doctor Who fans like us, we've said this kind of before, but we, even in stories which we think aren't good, we will find something in there to love, and we will keep showing up when the show while the show is there, because that's just how we are. We love torturing ourselves sometimes, I guess. But I don't think the show can survive off of people like us, though. Is the worrying thing. It can't just keep going off of fans who will just show up because they love it so much, and they will find the thing that they love in it. I'm fascinated. I wish I had, obviously we've got the viewing figures in the UK for like iPlayer and the broadcast, and we can see all those numbers, but we don't know necessarily how the Disney Plus stuff is going fully. I did hear that the first couple episodes did pretty well, which I guess is understandable because it was a whole new thing. It was up there on the tiles on the Disney Plus, so it's a new thing that people would
promoted.
That people would click on. But I am really fascinated to know when the season ends, and I wish there was a way to know how well it's done with that target audience or not.
Like I said, one of the biggest things is just making sure like it's accessible for people if you're going for a new market. Making sure it's accessible because people like, I don't know, sure it's on Disney, but if they have no other way of watching previous things, like how are they really gonna like keep it in their mind to be like, oh, like I wonder where I can watch the new season now. You know, like there's part of that, like, oh, I kind of want to catch up before I watch this new thing. It might not be accessible everywhere else, which is fine if you weren't going for a new target market. But like, yeah, you know, when you said Disney, I was thinking of like, I think and this might just be my opinion, and this is gonna go kind of off related, but when you have like a big sci-fi show, like even Star Wars or sci-fi universe, really, like there's still magic that exists in Star Wars. There's still witches that exist with like a completely different realm of possibilities and things, right? Like it's not that we're like, oh no, we need everything to be science-based, and I think it works. I think it works for them. Like I think it works for what they did with the Star Wars. It just felt like it was formed enough to be like, okay, like I could see this being in the plot. And then I just think with the Doctor Who stuff on like, I just don't know. I just don't know. Like, especially since they're both on Disney now, was kind of what sparked that in my brain.
I'm willing to let the season play out. Let Russell play his hand on this supernatural stuff. Because like we said, like a lot of our issues could be resolved with certain revelations and how things have been going this season. But I don't know, at this point, at the halfway point, I'm just like, maybe Russell, we put this back in the toy box, because I don't know if you I don't know if you're being responsible with the toy.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a bigger question to wait and see, I guess, to see how that all gets handled, how that all shakes out by the end of this whole thing. I was hoping I would draw a better idea of how I feel about this episode once we've had our discussion, but I still find myself in a frustrated place because I see the good in it, I see the ideas in it, I see the good atmosphere building it does, and the good direction, Millie's performance, all of these things, and yet the episode just leaves me kind of like annoyed. just like it just feels like the ending is a slight cop out, and that really irks me. And the fact that the Doctor just vanishes, there's no explanation for that at all. And yes, it's not a bigger thing for me, but I understand why it is for other people. What the person is saying are they just saying that she stinks and they run away, or I don't know. I have no idea. I wish the main thing for me with this 73-yard creature, Ruby, it's Ruby. Let's put it like, I'm firmly believing it's Ruby the whole time.
Same.
But
same.
I just wish the hand movements meant something. Like, you know what I mean? It really irks me that they don't mean anything.
Because you also, like, when Ruby is dying and like traveling back, you see it from the perspective of the hands, right? Like you see it.
Yeah, and at that point, the hands are just like this.
To it.
The hands are just out frontwards, like. But when they're like an actual movement from a distance, it's just those little things that keep stacking up, and I'm just like, I just want something. I want something to hold on to. It doesn't have to be much. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't even have to be specific. I just need something.
Yeah, something solid. Yeah. It just feels like prepping us to stop overthinking everything as Doctor Who fans.
This is just a big meta thing.
just trust the process, which because that makes me even less like confident in the end. Like, I'm sorry, you can start a new generation of fans all you want, but it's not going to change like the things that brought people into Doctor Who.
I guess we should try and give a conclusion on 73 yards, which I'm finding very difficult, so that's why I'm waffling a little bit. I'm just trying to add everything up in my head to where I'd put this in a score. Like, Millie's performance, The
Yeah, Millie did
direction,
a good job.
the direction is really good because like there's loads of cool things they were doing, camera work wise, and just getting, like I say, the vibes of what they're going for across visually. Really liked Kate and Unit. It's nice seeing them. It's always fun. It actually gave me like the inspiration. If you wanted to do a Dr. Light episode in the future, just like do a Unit story. Like have the companion at the forefront with Unit, and then you've got other characters that we are invested in and care about, and then you can have like the Doctor like off somewhere else. Like that maybe something happens to the Doctor, or maybe the Doctor gets sent somewhere to deal with something else, and then they phone in every so often because they're not available to shoot the whole thing. Or like I just feel like that'd be a good way of doing a Dr. Light episode. So at least you've got other characters involved that we care about and are invested in and would like to see them develop further. And then you've got the time and space to do that without your main actor around.
That would mean that they would have to have accountability for having secure answers.
No, there are no answers anymore. 73 yards has proven that. There are no answers. They don't matter. It's about the journey, not the answers.
Yeah.
Which is what this episode is. And I guess really that's what, whether you like it or not, is going to fall on that. Did you enjoy the journey? Then you'll like the episode. If you want the answers, then maybe this isn't the episode for you, which is fair, also fair. I think both responses is valid for this. My dad, who I've been watching the episodes with, his like one word reviews thus far is he didn't say anything after we watched the first two. After watching Boom, he was like, it was better than last week. And then after watching this one, he said, well, that didn't explain anything. What's his take? That was his take so far on this season.
Yeah.
This is why I'm struggling with this, because I feel like if I was to give this a 5, I'm weirdly giving it feels like an injustice. There's so many good things happening here. It's just Tash. Why is this so hard? Why is this episode stumping me so badly?
Well, like, I think it's tough because you're like, you don't want to sell into, like, you don't want to make it seem like it's okay to quote with all the questions, right? Like, you don't want to be like, oh, but it was justified.
Like I said earlier, like there is absolutely a way you can do ambiguous storytelling and dreamlike storytelling and make it work. I'm just not fully convinced this worked for me because of the many things that we've mentioned, and I'm sure a lot of other people could have answers to the things that we've brought up, but I feel like those are answers that they're bringing to it, opposed to what the story is actually laying down. Like they're doing the extra legwork to explain what happened and how it happened, and which might be the point of the whole thing. I just don't know. You know what? I'm just gonna, before I give myself some kind of aneurysm, I'm just gonna
set yourself free.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, comparing it to the other episodes, I'd watch this again over Space Babies. Like if Space Babies came on, I'd be like, nah, I'm going to do something else. If Devil's Cord came on, I feel like I would probably watch it, depending on my mood. Depending on my mood on that day, I would probably sit and watch that. If Boom came on, I'd 100% sit and watch Boom. I feel like I would watch this, but then I'd consider halfway through going, I kind of know where this is going, and I'm okay, I can go do something else now. It's kind of where I'm at. I'm gonna give it, I feel like I might regret it, but I'm gonna give it a 5.5. I feel like that's where I'm gonna end, because I feel like it's just a personal taste thing.
Yeah.
And whilst I see what they're going for, I just don't necessarily get on exactly with how they reached where they were going. So I think I'm going to sit on 5.5 as my rating for this one. I'm going to write that down because I need to keep track of this for when we get to the end of the season. And I will allow myself freedom to not think about this anymore and let you give your score.
My score, I would just have to say, if you want my score, you're going to have to ask her. If
Oh,
Russell T Davies doesn't have to
brilliant.
provide answers, neither do I.
Russell,
Just ask her.
and then Russell goes 10 out of 10. That's Tash's score. You're right, though. That's so frustrating. It's so frustrating that that's the line. Like just ask her. I would love to, but she's not going to give me any answer.
Yeah. I mean, in all honesty, though, I'll just say 5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Like nothing was worse than Space Babies.
Mm-hmm.
I can't go through the same journey you just went through. It will break my brain. I'm emotionally recovered from the weekend. I think it's just a pity that this is like the halfway point of the season, shall I say? Like there's nothing solid. Like we're just free falling. We're free falling forever. This is purgatory. This is our purgatory.
It feels like that. Yeah, it does feel like that.
Which is just such an injustice to Ncuti and Millie, who are doing a phenomenal fucking job.
Yeah.
My dad.
Yeah, this whole thing, it does feel a little bit like we're planting some seeds, but if you really want to understand those seeds, you have to go and look at interviews and behind the scenes stuff. And it's like, can we just do this like in the episodes perhaps? Can we can we have this stuff in the TV show opposed to having to go do extracurricular work to kind of understand what you're doing?
You want to dig because you're interested more in the world.
Yes.
It should be why you want to keep digging, not just because you're like that.
Confused?
That can't be it. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Maybe we're just getting old, Tash, and we don't understand anymore. Maybe we just don't get it.
Senile.
Yeah,
we're getting senile in our days.
Maybe we're the old people saying, no, the kids, they're the ones who are wrong. maybe that's us now.
Those kids. I mean, maybe, but then what does it make Russell T Davies? He's even older than us.
73 yards, everyone. 5.5 for me, 5 for Tash. Kind of in the middle. It's it does some good things, it does some confusing things, and like I say, on my really scientific scale of would I rewatch the episode, I'd probably watch half of it, and then depending on my mood, I'd be like, do I want to keep going? Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Real scientific, I know, but that's where I'm at with 73
Give
yards.
us more spooky Welsh content.
Yes, please. If you want to do a whole spooky Welsh episode, do it. All right, let's release ourselves from that trauma and move on to the trauma of how are we feeling about season 1, series 14. Now we're halfway through already. Crazy.
I don't know. I don't want to answer this question.
I'll say,
you're leaving trauma to go back to trauma. You know?
My concern is I'm getting, in terms of how I feel like this, for me at least, how this series is going to go down, it's giving me series 2 vibes, in that series 2 is a series that I don't really often think about. It's kind of just there. There's a couple of standouts amongst it, but for the most part, it's just kind of, it's there. It exists. And I'm kind of worried that that's where this one is heading, which is kind of a shame given that it's meant to be this massive, big relaunch. And
rehook everybody.
Let's come back with a big punch, baby. And it just feels like it's 10 years' time from now. I feel like this is a series that is like, yeah, there's a couple of good episodes in there, but you know, it depends on the finale and the upcoming episodes, of course. We haven't got there yet. So, but at this point, halfway through, that's kind of what I'm getting.
Like, it kind of reminds me of like series 1 all over again, right? Like, feels like for people it didn't really start until it was David Tennant, which for you, like, series 2 is kind of like the most forgettable one for you. I don't know.
I mean, for context, I mean, I don't know what it's, I mean, I can't know for sure what it was like in America and other places in terms of the new show. Season 1 in the UK came out swinging and hit hard. It grabbed its audience immediately. It did ridiculously well. Series 2 for me always kind of felt like a difficult second album, where like there were parts, I mean, obviously I was younger at the time, and you know, young brain me was like, oh, Cybermen, that's fun, and like getting those kind of things from it. But the older I've gotten and I look back at that series, like there's a couple of episodes in there that are pretty good, but overall it's not one I really revisit. ever.
I guess I was more so hoping that, like, if any, for the next Doctor that does come after Ncuti, like, I hope it doesn't, like, this season doesn't make Ncuti forgettable, because I still feel like there's so much potential there. Like, there really is so much potential there, and I like.
Yeah.
There are, like, some interesting things being discussed in this season, and more inclusivity, which I really like. I feel like we need to keep including that stuff. Yeah, it's just been a rough few episodes.
And
the only confident episode wasn't RT Davies. So, like, it's tough, right? Like, it's tough
right.
when it's just like, my only episode that is confidence isn't. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
At
I
least
mean,
for
I'm
us,
gonna,
we must point out, at least for us personally, like, obviously, we don't speak for everyone.
No. And I mean, like, look, but there are people, like you said, like, it's either like it's a Marmite episode. There are people that really, really love it, and there are people that are probably watching this being like, you don't need to know everything, just enjoy the journey and that type of stuff. Which, yeah, like, respectively, there's gonna be different markets that are gonna have different, like, reactions to these episodes. I don't know. Like, I'm still gonna keep watching. I still really enjoy, like, Millie and Ncuti. I just feel like I don't have a lot of confidence in Davies, and that's not to say that, like, that's not to say that it can't come back at the end, right? Like, it could reach the season finale and be like, wow, that made all of it worth it. Like,
yes,
that's still a very strong possibility, and it's things that we've had to kind of deal with before. And I know there's so many people that, like, I can just see the eye rolls coming my way when I say I don't like Davies. I'm still gonna keep watching. I'm still, like, I haven't lost faith. I mean, I didn't even lose faith during Jodie's seasons though. So, like, I think it's so funny to me just to put, like, that, like, comparison here. Like, I don't think I was this upset during Jodie's seasons, and I know that makes me the outlier. Like, I know that wasn't the type of opinion that most people had. Like, I get that. I know that with full confidence. Like, it's not like I'm begging for everyone to talk to me about Jodie's seasons, because I know where people stand, and I know, like, I was not on that same side. So, like, I feel like being against the public, or, like, having a different opinion than the public, isn't something that's new to me. I just feel like I'm struggling with this more than I struggled with Jodie's.
Yeah.
And I think that's what worries me.
Yeah.
A little bit, I guess. Because everyone was just really excited to have Davies back, and it's gonna get better. And I was like, is it though? Like, for all sense and purposes, a really optimistic person. And then we come on here, and I just feel like I'm like,
yeah, I know. It's not fun not enjoying necessarily your favorite show. Which, with this season, we've kind of been either kind of in the middle, skewing to the lower. Like, I just hope, I really have my fingers crossed that the next half makes me realize, like, oh, I see where we were heading. I get what you were doing this whole time now.
Yeah.
But
if it's downhill next episode, I'm giving everyone the full warning that I will 100% be drinking Irish coffee just to get through. To get through recording. Like, I will not be able to contain. Like, this is still, for all intents and purposes, like, this is still me pretty contained.
Yeah, I have concerns about next week, honestly.
No, don't tell me that.
No, I just feel like, I mean, obviously,
I have like a comfort hoodie and a blanket.
Next week, obviously, we've got Dot and Bubble next week, and this week, sorry, rather, I should say. It looks like, because I think it is part of the same filming block as 73 Yards, I believe.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken on that. So that makes me think it's probably going to be another Dr. Light episode, because Ncuti was, which is a weird choice to have them back to back, if that is the case. My sneaking suspicion is that for half, or possibly over half the episode, we're going to be following that character who's in the trailer, and they're going to be being guided by the Doctor and Ruby on those video screens that they keep seeing come up on their eyes, or whatever it is. And then maybe for like the last 15 or so minutes, sort of like a la Crimson Horror during Matt Smith's era, where the Doctor is out of the picture, kind of, either through flashbacks and then is in it for the third act, effectively. I feel like that's kind of where Dot and Bubble is going, structurally.
Which can be done. Like, it's not unheard of.
It can work. But I'm just kind of like, I really want to see more of this Doctor. And I'm kind of like having 2 episodes which feel, I might be wrong, obviously we've not seen it yet, but it feels like we're heading towards another Doctor-ish, light-ish episode. Not really a criticism, but kind of like a thing I'm wanting, is I really want to have a better handle on this Doctor, which I don't feel like I have.
Yeah. Yeah,
Boom's
like, I mean, it could have been, yeah.
Boom's got the closest so far to having a multifaceted, I can see all the different directions that this version can go and what Ncuti's bringing to it. And because with Space Babies, it was very much the Doctor just being very enthusiastic, energetic, like just very traditional Doctor-y, high energy kind of stuff. The Devil's Cord was kind of the same, with a bit of the panic of how do I deal with this. And then Boom obviously was much more character focused, and boy did I need it, and I was grateful for it. But even so, I still feel a little bit like I don't really know what this Doctor's all about yet, which might pay off in a big way as we keep going through. And I know I'm enjoying Ncuti, but I do have concerns that well, not concerns, I'm just kind of like, I like him, but he's not like standing out amongst the crowd as of yet of all the other actors to do it, which, like we've previously mentioned, is kind of a shame, because it's like, it's his first season. You really want him to come out and own the show, and it doesn't feel like we're getting that just yet. Halfway through.
Space Babies, why?
Space Babies, why? Why Space Babies?
Oh, I just like, if Space Babies had been a good episode, I feel like you could have also like, if this week's I guess is like a light, it's a light Doctor episode, like you could have kind of like sprinkled them in to be like, here's a little taste, here's this, you know what I mean? Space Babies just like really fucked up the tone.
Yeah, it deflated the balloon a little bit.
Yeah. I have this like weird, and I might be very wrong, and you could all probably say this isn't the first time this maybe has occurred or something like that. I don't care. I mean, I do care. Everyone's opinions are valid. Like for me though, it feels like I don't like. Why? Like I feel like Davies is trying to do this like Black Mirror type stuff.
Yes, there was a lot of Black Mirror in this episode for sure.
Yeah, and I'm like, just stop. Like you don't have to just combine so many things into one thing to try to figure out what a target market is after, you know? Like you don't need to be it all. You just need to be something solid.
I've said this multiple times, but it really is hitting with this season in particular, is that Doctor Who as a show, the whole show, its biggest asset is its biggest curse, in that it can do whatever it wants from week to week to week. And sometimes that will land with you, sometimes it really won't land with you, because by its very nature. But I'm really feeling the wrong end of that stick at the moment with this season. And God bless Ncuti and Millie, they're giving it their all, and I really do like them. I'm just waiting for that. Like Boom feels like the prelude to something really good, and I'm just waiting for that really good thing to happen still. I really want that solid, like not a bottle episode which demonstrates the same stuff that Boom did, if that makes any sense. Like I want that big adventure episode which also has the stuff that Boom had in it, just not to be stuck in one location, which worked for Boom, but I kind of want that more, like I say, bigger adventure, sprawling kind of adventure episode, which still has those moments of pathos and those moments of emotional beats, and the Doctor getting to be truly heroic, and the companion raising up to the challenge, and you know, all of those kind of beats you look for in this show. And I feel like we've kind of nearly got there. Like we're like scraping at it, and I'm just kind of waiting for that to happen, I guess.
Yeah, same. I think the real question is like, when we do reach the season finale, is it the question I'm gonna have to ask is like, would I rewatch? Like, would how they wrap it up make it worthwhile to rewatch all of us with a new set of eyes and like excitement, or am I just gonna be like, you know what, I'm good. Capaldi wasn't my favorite, and it was
Mm-hmm.
really tough for me to buy into Capaldi.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, honestly, like seeing this season makes me want to rewatch Capaldi seasons again and like see what my emotional state is. You know what I mean? Like, do those settle better?
I need to
Type of
test.
thing.
I need to do a test to see, like,
Yeah. Like, I know how I felt about it at the time, and I know how I
Yes.
feel about rewatching those things because there really are some fantastic episodes in there. I think for me, it was kind of like, is that enough to carry
Hmm.
the rest for me with
Yeah.
the other like plot elements that were happening? So I feel like it would be a good comparison, and like, I don't think
Yeah. No, I get you.
there's ever been a time where I'm like, I need to rewatch that, and now I'm like, I think I need to rewatch that. Like, I
Yeah.
think I just need to, see like,
No, for real.
yeah,
I completely get. I'm genuinely fascinated to when we get to the ending point
Mhm,
of this particular journey that we're on. I'm fascinated to see how I feel upon rewatching some of it
mhm.
after the fact. I feel like Doctor Who at its best is one of those shows where you can go back and rewatch stuff, and maybe you'll pick up on something
Mhm.
that you
Yeah,
didn't
for
the
sure.
first time, or get a feeling you didn't get the first time, or
Yeah.
so I am genuinely curious about that.
Mhm, mhm.
Because there's definitely episodes that I've reevaluated that either I really liked when I first watched them, and then subsequently was like, yeah, you know what, maybe that one doesn't really work for me, and then vice versa.
Yeah.
There's episodes that I really didn't like, and then I went back years later and was like, maybe I was too harsh on this
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
So I am curious about how that will feel with this season as well. Season 1, series 14, halfway point. I feel like we've been valid in the criticisms we've made of the episodes thus far. Like, it's not
Mhm.
like we're just doing it for the sake of being like, we don't like this, because it's not like, oh,
Mm,
Doctor Who. I feel like there's been legitimate things where you can say like, oh, okay, I see where you're coming from with
yeah,
that.
yeah. And it's okay, like, it's okay to have different opinions. Like,
Hmm.
there's a lot of things that we don't agree about, right?
Yes.
And I think, like, we haven't done a lot of historical
Hmm.
episodes on the podcast. We've only just been discussing the news. So I'm guarantee like there would be equally as heated conversations or more intense conversations about like previous
Hmm.
things. Um but yeah, it just sucks. Like I just want to come on here and be like, I
Really
am
liked this.
overjoyed.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
And then like you're struggling to find criticism with
Yeah.
it, right? Versus the other way around. It would make prepping for our conversations a little bit easier and
It's and that's
yeah,
why I
no, it's
found
tough.
that's why I found this episode so frustrating in particular, because I was like,
Mhm,
God, there's so much good stuff here, but then there's this stuff where I'm like, come on, please, just
mhm.
something,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
something.
I wanna be optimistic. I wanna, like,
Same.
have really excited conversations. Like, I want that, and for the people that are watching the season with that and have that, like, that is great. Like, I don't
I'm
hold on to that, you know
jealous.
what I mean? But it's like, it's working. Like, hold
Yeah,
on to that,
yeah.
Like, there's hope yet that people are gonna stick around.
No, 100%. The
Yeah,
people
yeah.
who are enjoying this season
Mhm.
so far, all I can say is
Right.
like, fuck yeah for you. Like, if you're enjoying
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
like, fucking stay the course and keep
Mhm,
enjoying it.
mhm,
It's like we said previously, and like I was saying about sometimes Doctor Who's just by the nature of it, of what it is, sometimes
mhm,
it lands for you, sometimes it doesn't, and it can just be a very personal thing from time to time. It doesn't necessarily
mhm,
mean the episode is straight up bad or straight up good. It's just
mhm,
a personal, subjective judgment on it.
mhm,
It just so happens, at least for me, I feel like I'm more middling on most of these episodes so far than positive. But at the same time, it's not like I'm going to give up and be like, show stinks now. I'm not doing this. Cancel the podcast. So I'm definitely not in that frame of mind.
No,
I'm not in that
no.
place. It's just,
I might be in a frail state next week, though. I'm warning you now. I might just feel like
yeah.
this
Um,
is torture.
Next week,
But yeah.
just warn everyone ahead of time. I don't know what the fuck is going on with my schedule next week, so we will
Mhm.
try and record at the earliest
Yeah.
opportunity for the next episode. Just be prepared for potential
Mhm.
lateness
Mhm.
on the
Yeah.
next one. We'll see how it shakes out. But yeah,
Life's crazy.
I guess we'll just we'll wrap things up. 73 yards, interesting but flawed, I think is my consensus on it. Season 1, series 14. I'm waiting for that 1-2 punch that's going to make me go, hell fucking yeah, Russell, you did it. And for Ncuti and for Millie.
Yeah.
I just can't believe we're halfway through already. It feels like we just started, but I guess that's 8 episodes for you rather than 12. I feel like we've just been very. It's just been a very like like low vibe episode of Adventures in Who this week, but you know the episode was kind of a very like melancholy kind of episode, I guess. So I guess that tracks. You good? No, you said everything you wanted to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm right there. All right.
I feel like that's it.
Yeah. Let us know your opinions on 73 yards. Either on, you know what, we should set up like either an Instagram or something for this podcast, that because obviously all we, dear listener and viewer, we have Discords, both of us, which will be linked if you're on YouTube and stuff. So if you want to join there, you can. But I don't know, maybe we should set up something that's a little bit more open and accessible for people who don't use Discord. I don't know. We'll spitball. We'll think of something maybe.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like the whole thing was if we wanted to continue this, and it seems like we're doing it. So
we're doing it, folks. All right. I'm Martin, Indie Geek Guy. There it is. My links are down below. That's Tash. That's Tash. I'm pointing the right way. That's Tash. /Tasha.
Are we touching?
We're touching.
This way? Hi, I'm here. Is this me?
That's you.
It's me.
That's no.
I
that
know.
way.
It's
that
our
way.
cameras there. Yeah.
There we go. Beautiful. Beautiful. I don't know why I went with this arm when it's the furthest one away. Links down below. Yeah. We'll be back to talk about Dot and Bubble at the earliest point we can. If it ends up getting rolled into, because of my schedule, we might end up rolling Dot and Bubble and the next one into one episode. We'll see how it shakes out.
4-hour episode.
Yeah, baby. We'll see how it shakes out, but we will be here to talk about it. Give us a like, a comment, those things that you do on these platforms. A review on Spotify if you're listening on Spotify. But we only want good reviews on Spotify.
No. You can be honest. You could all be honest.
But yeah, hope you enjoyed 73 yards. These are just our thoughts and feelings. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll catch you some other time in the future. Have good times, good weeks. Look after yourself. Princess Wave. Goodbye.